welcome to the part two of the Belo matchup guide with Barney Kong here, better known as Adam, and hashtag EMB, a very, very special guest. Matt, can you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I am hashtag EMB on YouTube, but you can call me Matt. I am a YouTuber mainly, been doing Bello Betty content for the past year, actually, since OP05. I've been on this deck, and it's basically the primary content for my channel. And other than that, I haven't done too super many like impressive tops and stuff, but I did win what is known as the world's largest local tournament, which was a 250 player tournament that one of the European like game shops held online. And I actually ended up winning that whole thing, going 6-0, I think, with Bello Betty. Um,
Which is incredibly impressive. And I will say, personally, you were the inspiration for me to run Bello Betty back in '08 when I first decided to try and make it my meta competitive deck. And the inspiration came directly when I did see that you went 6-0. Regardless of the meta, you were proof of concept that the deck could be incredibly powerful. So, like, huge ups to you for being a big influence to me. Thanks
Dude,
so much for
I'm
that.
so glad to hear it. I'm so glad to hear that I was able to influence someone who then actually went and performed well with the deck in multiple tournaments. So super glad to hear that, man.
Yeah, I mean, I well, watching your play lines was what gave me a good idea. So I think you're, in my opinion, a top tier Bello player. So the fact that you're the first guest on my channel, it's absolutely great. And I will say now we should get into part two of this guide. And the first leader we're going to go over is one that a lot of people have troubles with, especially with this leader because of how much removal it has. And that is going to be Rob Lucci. And Rob Lucci is just he's so consistent because of his leader's ability and the utilization of trashing cards and being able to utilize cards from his trash. So the consistency is a big issue. The three tips that I have are mulligan for stage or your spammers. Ideally stage because then you'll be able to find your spammers. And by spammers, I mean 4 cost Ivankov, 5 cost Ivankov, and 6 cost Koala. And then the last point is going to be KO the 3 cost Brook on site. Its repeated KO value is going to be too much pressure for you to deal with if you don't get rid of it. So, Lucci, you're going to want to take second. That was one of the points that we made in the first video for basically every single deck. You want to go second against every single deck except for maybe the mirror. And you want to do that so that you can play multiple bodies on your turn 1 and on your turn 2. If you have stage in your opening hand, it is unless you have two searchers, two Bello Bettys, it is stronger to go Betty stage. So that way you can keep setting yourself up consistently to find your spammers. You're going to need to play 2 to 3 5 cost Ivankovs or 6 cost Koalas to have enough pressure in order to actually KO your opponent. Do your best to stay out of lethal range on any crackback because if an opponent can, instead of establishing board, just try and go for lethal, especially when you have low cards in hand, they'll do that. And with a lot of matchups, you're going to freely take life, so you're going to put yourself in a position earlier on to be, say, at 2 life when they have a Rob Lucci and Searcher on board, and they may literally have enough to go for lethal if they just do it, but if you stay with enough cards in hand or just out of that lethal range, you're able to convince them to establish board or get rid of your board. You're going to attack in waves because of establishing your spammers. So you're going to establish board, attack, and then the next turn probably establish board because they're going to KO all of the stuff that you have. It's a brutal matchup, but you can consistently outvalue them by playing 5 costs into 4 costs or 6 costs into 4 costs that also can potentially play out more 4 costs in the 4 cost of Unkov.
Exactly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but generally going second, you don't really want to play like a Kuma or Koala or Race Max. unless you like Kuma, maybe if you can KO something, because they will just play Brook and get rid of it anyways. So
So
you don't kind of
yeah,
get value from that, right?
so you kind of force them to have Brook if you play it. So say very common term one for Lucci is Spandam, yeah, Spandam,
Yeah,
and then their two options on their 3 down turn is either Brook or attach 5 swing, attach 3 swing
attach three
5.
thing. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, attach 3 swing 5. If you play out one character and they have Brook, you're really putting yourself in a bad position. But not establishing a character, especially if it's Bello Betty,
yeah.
is going to be a detriment. But you do want to save your raise maxes if you have no other power reducers for their Jack.
Yeah. Okay.
So Jack is one of the cards that like if the only thing you can play out on your 1 down or 2 down turn is one raise max and it's your only power reducer, it's not worth it to play it out because you need to be able to take care of their Jack on crackback.
Yeah, that all makes
And
sense.
mhm. The matchup should be uh you know I think it's favored personally, but should be around 50-50. They can KO your stuff and they have triggers that KO if they get lucky with their Ice Age and their finger pistol, and because I know some Luccis run one finger pistol, and then also Tempest Kick.
Tempests. Yeah,
All of Yep, Tempest Kick. All of those get rid of your characters, or at least some characters are within range of those cards, so they can just kind of get lucky. And if they get lucky with triggers, there's very little you can do. My Nats loss against Lucci, he got 4 KO triggers in life, and they're just like that coupled with his Rob Lucci plays and Brook plays was just I
yeah.
wasn't able to overcome
No,
that.
that's disgusting. And
Yeah,
let me guess, you had like most one trigger in your life.
I had no triggers in my
He
life that
had
game.
no triggers in his life, but Lucy got four. Sounds fair.
Naturally, yeah.
Naturally,
This is
because we don't play triggers in our deck.
no. It felt like I was playing Vegapunk. It was disgusting.
Yeah, that's actually so gross.
Just every
Vegapunk
time
with
I
five
attacked
life.
her. Hey man, if you're playing Vegapunk, you should get to 5 life.
Oh
Not
my god.
at once, not at one time,
But yeah,
but
across the game for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then cool. I think that's all I want to say about Rob Lucci. You attack in waves. You end the game before they get to 10 Don. Take a second from them.
Yeah,
Here's your spammers.
I don't think I have anything to add either. This matchup has basically been all you for the Belo Betty community in general. If you've seen any of my previous videos, I mentioned how much I hate playing against this deck and how much it fucks me up. And it's insane how Adam has just come in and been like, hey, put in the stage. And now it's like he's saying it's a favorite matchup. It's so crazy to me because I struggled so much with it personally, but I mean he has the results to prove it. So you can't even argue with him. Like he found the way, and now he's basically solved the matchup, which is so insane and such an impressive feat.
Yeah, honestly, the Lucci's, it used to be even, I would say that it's not even that like it needed to be solved before. In the '08 meta, it, uh, Bello Betty was so strong because Rob Lucci wasn't running Brook and they were running 5 cost Sabo, and they always swung 8, then they played Sabo, and then they played Lucci, or not Lucci, they played Jack.
Yeah,
And just that play line allowed us to establish so much pressure that Lucci was basically a free win for a while. It's only when they started teching for Dofi that the matchup really started to get difficult because teching for Dofi is also teching for Betty,
yeah. Thank you for aggro, basically.
which sucks. Yeah, teching for aggro. Well, it's the 4 cost attack slot that I'm specifically referring to.
Yeah, but
Like,
that's aggro decks, right?
oh yeah, true. Uh, So on to the next matchup, we've got Jewelry Bonney, and the tips we have for Jewelry Bonney are Swing with your strongest character first, which is so counterintuitive, but it's absolutely what you have to do because of their leader ability, unless they don't have Dawn up. Be careful of their Hody. Your blockers are not keeping you safe in this game because Hody just can rest two of them. And if they're, I mean, we go so low in hand that resting two of our blockers probably means they're going for lethal and within lethal range. They run a lot of bricks, so high pressure, swing sixes, because if you pull 2Ks or if they have no 2Ks, they're either going to greatly reduce their hand size or just have to start taking life. Um, and when I say six, I do actually just mean one over their slot because we do run Karasu, so you can run 5 into 4, and it's the exact same thing. Keep reducers in hand for 8 cost Kid, and Cavendish, and Carrot, and Lindbergh is your best friend, specifically because of the things that I just said. Cavendish, Carrot, and Kid. Lindbergh will KO Rosinante when attacking Kid, uh, and your power reducers allow you to swing a much more reasonable number into Kid because he'll be a 5K character instead of an 8K character. Carrot is within kill range with one power reducer, and Lindbergh, as is Cavendish, one power reducer, and it's within kill range. Lindbergh is absolutely going to be your best friend in this matchup. You want to go second? I'm gonna, if I do keep saying it, it's just because it's true for every single matchup. And on curve, they play one thing most turns. They're going to play a searcher, which you're going to KO. On their forward on turn, if they still play a rouge, they're going to play a rouge. If they don't still play that, they're probably going to play two searchers. 6 Don, they're going to play Cavendish. 8 Don, they're going to play Kid or Hody. And then uh, if they make it to their 9 or 10 Don turns, they play one big body a turn, the most dangerous one being 10 cost Flamingo. But even then, like, they're going to be so low in life, they're probably going to die.
10 cost of Flamingo just isn't enough to save them, as it's usually, yeah, they're like they're stunning 3 bodies, right? But you're gonna have like 2 untapped bodies still, from the previous turn at least. So it's like you're still applying pressure even after Doflamingo comes out, which is rare for a deck in general. But for us, it's like, we just do that.
And we run rushers, so like
Mm-hmm.
even if it's only one thing, which I have the same experience as you. It usually is 2 things that I'm restanding. Um, the rusher just makes up for that,
Yeah.
and like they run a lot of bricks, and they have to take a lot of damage from us because of how wide we can go. Yeah, it's not a matchup that's like one that we can't lose. Recently I did lose this matchup on the Joy Boys stream that I did. He took second from me. He was able to establish Cavendish, which I didn't have an answer for, and he just outvalued me, which this deck can do because it's a top tier deck. But especially if you go second, you should have absolutely no problem with it.
No, it's definitely a favorite matchup. I saw someone on the Discord, not saying it on the Discord. I think they were streaming, and they were playing a webcam tournament, and they said, well, their opponent said like, I think this is supposed to be a favorite matchup, right? Um, as the Bonney. They were saying they were favored into Belo Betty, and I was sitting there like, what the fuck is he talking about? Like, I'm sorry, but
uh,
I feel like this is so favored Belo Betty.
and you would be right. I feel like and maybe we're kind of getting out of this. There was a lot of thoughts that Bello Betty was a gimmick deck. Like it didn't really have the capabilities of standing up to the best of the best without just high rolling its way to victory, which it can only do so often.
Yeah.
I think you and I have proved that and a lot of other people actually. I'm not just going to say just the two of us, but like a lot of people have now proven that that's wrong. This deck can compete. It is not a gimmick deck. It's just powerful. It's just incredibly
Dude,
powerful.
it's just like humanity, dude. They hate what's different. It's just they can't they're scared of what they don't know.
Yeah, it's like, what do you mean? There's two red yellow leaders, and they're both Rev Army, and they don't like that package, so they're just completely dismissing the deck. And that's just the folly of man. Really, what we're discovering here is the folly of man, if I'm being
Exactly. I mean,
honest.
shit, this is not even about the card game anymore.
Let's devolve. I know Black Yellow Luffy's up next, but I feel like philosophy is our move.
Exactly.
But
Fuck
actually, we're going to talk about
Luffy.
yeah. No, let's move on to BY Luffy. We have the tips for this one are Mulligan for Karasu. Let them take their own life and don't swing with board. This is after they're down to 2. You can freely swing with your leader. And if they take, they take. If they're countering out, that's great. They still have to take their own life. But after they are at 2 life, you don't even swing with your leader anymore. You don't swing with your board, so that way they don't get free value at swinging at that. And then the last one is pay attention to their Don and Trash. Their trash is important because, like, if they have the Sabos in trash or the supernovas, Luffy in trash, those are 2 of their stronger plays because being able to just constantly make sure they get to 0, regardless of the cards they have in hand, is really strong. And if they're at a Don value or Don total that isn't 10, meaning like if they just passed to you and it was their 7 Don turn, you can pretty freely just kind of pressure as much as you want that turn because the next turn they're going to 9 Don and they're not able to play Gecko Moria and use their leader ability. Finding the turns where you can pressure really, really hard while not allowing them on the crackback to have basically any uh, tools or utilization capabilities of their leader is how you make this matchup pretty trivial. It I don't know how, but like on the stats, this shows as like a 50-50 matchup. But like I'm not kidding, it's as favored as Red Purple Luffy.
Dude, I completely agree with that. I remember people asking, like, how do I deal with BY Luffy? Like, I don't get it. I keep losing. And I'm just saying, like, dude, it's a 4-life leader who takes his own life. Why are you struggling?
It yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Like, I mean, sure, yeah, if we
Um,
get to 10, if they get to 10 and you haven't, like, done anything all game, then sure, they can be like a 9k leader, and but it's like still then if they're even if they're a 9k leader, like all you need is like 1-2 swings, like to get past like
mhm.
their sabos, and like
Yeah,
I don't know, man.
you should have been pressuring them so much that even if they're at 10 Don and they get their stuff off, you should have like 1 card in hand tops.
Yeah,
I did one of my losses at the Madison, Wisconsin regional was to a BY Luffy, and I mean like I'm not gonna the deck isn't is like super favored into BY Luffy, so like I'm not gonna say I like schooled the guy, but I outplayed him. He had no cards in hand, he had 1 life, and he had no board, and I had life left, and he top decked Moria.
mm,
Like, literally the only card in the
yeah,
game that could have pulled a kid from his trash to grab his life, which was a Rocket Luffy, which allowed him to draw a card, which allowed him to use leader ability. Like, literally, if
oh,
it was not like a destined to beat me
dude,
scenario,
that was so gross.
uh, like literally this deck has to like have the ideal setup, I feel like, to contend with Betty. And even then, I
It needs
have
to
to get
top deck.
unlucky.
Yeah, it literally still needs to top deck.
Yeah. So because if he had that Moria in hand, I won the turn before because he can't counter out of my attack.
Hmm. Exactly, yeah. So he literally just had like perfect counter and then drew into the Moria.
Yep,
That's so
exactly.
dumb.
Uh yeah, trash. Trash, trash, trash. So that's enough for story time. The matchup is just go wide, use your leader ability to go tall on the turn where they have 2 life. If
Yeah,
you don't have the swings to go for lethal, just establish another body and wait because if they're still at 2 life, it's going to take a lot of resources for them to get to 0.
yeah, and when you say establish one body, he obviously means play 5 cost Ivankov and establish 2, because why not?
Yeah, well, I mean, like, if you already have a wide board, just, like, establish
Sure, yeah.
however many bodies help your board.
Yes, obviously. I mean, if I was to add like the last thing there, I mean, you went over it a little bit on the last point there. Would pay attention to their dawn and trash. The trash is not gonna be that like it's they're most likely gonna have the shit in the trash, especially because they trash with leader ability as well. But the dawn part is super important to keep a check on because, like you said, if they're not at 10 dawn, they're not doing Moria things, and you can always count their dawn and be like, okay, they need 2 dawn for this kid, 2 dawn for this kid, and then they need 2 dawn for like Hiyori, or they need a dawn for Flampe. You can always do the math there to see what kind of turn they're gonna have and how that will allow you to swing. Like, let's say they're going to like I don't know 5 or something, and you have a massive board. I don't. There's situations at least where you can be like, hey, maybe I can swing one more time this turn, without them actually doing things. It might be risky, but like just do the math and figure out what play they're most likely to make, right? And go from there.
Yeah, we're giving general rules of thumb, but, like, there are going to be play lines that we can't possibly tell you about right now because they're so situational. And yeah, just to Matt's point, like, assess the situation, figure it out for yourself. Is a good rule of thumb where we're at, but doesn't mean it's always 100% the right move.
Exactly. Yeah.
Moving on to another one that has been causing people problems recently because of the build changes. Shanks. There are several points we have here. Number one, be aware of Red Hawk. Two, they have a very predictable curve, and that's what's going to help you like play around their game plan. Know how to play around Lucky Roo specifically because his ability is bogus and counters what we want to do really, really well. And then be careful of Roger, which is the last one. It's not as lethal as 10 cost Shanks or as bad as 10 cost Shanks, but it can win games that it shouldn't end up winning, just by virtue of his leader of his ability. It's a good card and it will get surprise victories for your opponent. The first point, be aware of Red Hawk. This is a card that's not getting run as much anymore, but the second you stop preparing for it or respecting it is when it can come back and bite you in the butt. So if they're leaving 2 Don up, you just have to assume that they have it. If they're leaving 2 Don up and they don't have it, and it's a bluff, they're wasting 2 Don and it's a good position for you. If they do have it and you play around it, it's still a good position for you. There's no real downside to playing around it as if they have it, if they have 2 Don up, even though most decks aren't running it right now. They have a really predictable curve. They're going to go um, at most what is that? The building snake, turn 1 if they run that, but even then, probably not.
Yeah.
They
It's
are
either that
going
or
to
Uta.
go, yeah, if they run Uta, but I'm seeing a lot of lists that don't run
Yeah,
Uta.
I've seen people cut Uta as well.
Uh, yeah, so if they're their searcher or their power reducer, if they're gonna play anything, uh, on 3 Don, they're either gonna swing 8 at face, 6 at face, leave 2 open, mm, play their searcher or power reducer if they happen to draw it and didn't play it the turn before. If they're on 4 Don, they're gonna play Lucky Root. If they're on 5 Don, they're either gonna play Yasop or um, Lucky Roo. If they're on 6 Don, they'll play Yasop. I know some are running 5 cost Ace, um, just to deal with the black matchup. And then also on
Some
7
people play
Don, they'll
Rayleigh on
play.
6 as well, I think. There's some lists who run Rayleigh, right?
Rayleigh is run, but it'll only get played on 6 if you have characters on board uh, to make the ability pop off.
Okay.
And if they have Lucky Roo and your stuff's gone, they may not. But
Yeah.
yeah, if but I would say that the more common play is Yasop.
Yeah.
7 Don is either Whitebeard or Ben Beckman, which is going to KO something the turn it comes out, and then 8 Don is Rayleigh, or which KOs something the turn it comes out, or Dragon, which they'll use to attack your board, and then 10 cost is their big drops. Um, that's their curve. You just have to go wide. Finds it's kind of a lot like playing Lucci. You're gonna want to spam stuff out. You want to find 5 cost of Onkov. This matchup is not as bad as Lucci though.
No, not at all, for sure.
Anything you want to add? Yeah.
Yeah,
This match.
not to the point necessarily. I think we're gonna get more in depth around Lucky Roo part. But I guess we'll move on to that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So, if you want to go in depth in Lucky Roo, and then I'll talk about anything
Dude,
that I want to go over that you didn't.
I'll try. I fucking hate playing around Lucky Roo. It's so bad. Uh, Lucky Roo is odd, right? Because it's a blocker that's going to get rid of another body as well. So the way you swing, what I've found successful is that it does like you want to swing. You want to swing with your big body, right? Because you want to make sure that that doesn't get KO'd. Because they're usually not gonna KO the same thing that they block because that's
Low value.
exactly, that's low value. They're just getting rid of one attack at that point. So you want to make sure you swing with whatever card is most important for your board state. So like let's say you have a Lindbergh out, you swing with that first because you know that's gonna give value in a later turn, or like you have a Karasu out, you swing with that first, get the reduction, etc. Or what if you really need your forecast Ivankov to stick on board because
That's
you
generally the one that I pick, actually.
yeah, exactly, because that can get you a lot of value. Like you said, it's very important to get spammers out in this matchup. So swing with Ivankov first, which feels really off when especially if you have a Karasu on board. You're like, what the fuck? Why am I not swinging Karasu first? Because that's what you do in every other matchup. But you need to make sure that you swing with whatever creature you want to stick on board. And sometimes it can get really awkward because you can have like a board of characters that you want to keep where you like don't really care which character you keep. Like let's say I have a Karasu, Lindbergh, and Ivankov out, and the situation allows me to not, I don't know which one's gonna be of more use next turn. What I like to do is I like to this is probably not correct, but I like to swing with fives. Like if I have a Race Max or a Belo Betty on board or something like that. I like to do those, or I can swing with like Ivankov for 5 before boosting. Assuming that I've gone really wide, I think I would need to have uh, literally 5 characters on board for this to make sense. But you swing before boosting, and then if he blocks and KOs one of your things, then you can boost all the 3 remaining characters, which is great, right? Because then he doesn't KO something that was boosted. Like if you boost previously, and because Lucky Roo is base power, so he doesn't give a fuck if you boost or not. And him
Yeah, it's
getting rid
just
of that extra
nothing.
3k power is rough on you. But that's kind of situational.
Yeah.
It's
Everything is going to be situational with Lucky Roo. I will bring up another situation. You were right. You have to swing with the thing that you do not want to die first. So, say I have 2 searchers on the board, 4 cost Ivankov and 4 cost Karasu or Lindbergh. I will buff the 2 searchers and Ivankov and then swing with Ivankov, because that is the way that they get the absolute lowest value for that Lucky Roo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so correct. That's definitely the correct play. Like you want to make sure you go as wide as possible so that they don't just get to KO on 8k, because
Yep.
that's just crazy value for them.
So yeah, very typically they'll also uh take freely. Like I've swung 5 with leader and they've taken with Lucky Roo before. Um just because they want to take care of the Karasu before it minuses their leader.
Yeah,
So there's a lot of interesting interactions that you can go for, but it depends on the quality of the Shanks player. A good Shanks player or a sorry, a Shanks player that's kind of like newer to the deck or not as familiar with the intricacies of the game, who just uses their leader ability like on the first attack, that won't ever work for them because they'll leader ability your leader to 4 and they won't block with Lucky Roo. But that's going to be like sussing out your opponent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it it's it's a good leader. There's a reason that it's really popular. Yeah, I would say the matchup is slightly favored for us, but kind of in that same Rob Lucci territory where it's like 55-45.
Exactly. Favorite for us.
Yeah,
For sure.
favored for us.
Yeah.
Um, Next deck up we have is Smoker, which um, for us is just a worse Rob Lucci. It should be easier. They generally don't play 4-cost Lucci. Their big card is Tashigi, and Tashigi KOs one thing, Lucci KOs two things. They're very consistently able to KO one thing a turn. So looking for stage to be able to find spammers can be important for sure, but it's not as necessary as it is in Lucci because you're not losing as many characters as you are against Lucci. Same kind of thing. If they just trigger a bunch and hit your little stuff, it sucks. But I think they run even less triggers than Lucci
Hmm.
does,
Yeah.
so it should not be bad. Um, Pressure face. Uh, Use Limburg as a power reducer to KO their Tashigi. So that way they don't. They get to hand fix a lot, which is good. So they're more, I would say that they're actually a more consistent deck than Rob Lucci, but because they don't have that same removal power, it's just not as difficult to deal with. So it's more consistent, which may feel like it's harder to deal with because it feels like they have answers. But you should be able to just uh, keep pressuring in waves to overpower them. They're the Sengoku, which fixes their hand, draw three trash, or trash two, draw three. Um, Tashigi, and they play Brook as well. Those are the cards to watch out for.
I don't know. Did they play 4 of Brook?
I don't know that they play 4 of
I
Brook,
don't think
but
so. I feel like they.
yep.
I feel like I run into it way less against Smoker than I do against Lucci.
Yeah, it's not a 4 of in their deck. I know that they like it for like the -1
Mm.
because it goes nice with leader ability. Uh, but yeah, I don't see this deck nearly as much as I see Lucci.
No.
So not as much to worry about with this deck. I would say that this deck is more closer to like 65-35 in favor of us.
And I mean, everything that can be said about Smoker, we've already said about Lucci, right? So I mean, basically the same matchup from our end, like our play style, right? Just
Hmm.
that we don't have to worry about as much removal.
Yeah. Find your stage, find 5 cost of Onkov,
Yeah,
stay out of lethal range.
yeah. Get rid of Brook.
Get rid of Brook. Yeah. Moving on to Enel, and we talked about it on your channel. Yellow leaders can just trigger their way to victory. What you want to do specifically against Enel is mulligan for Koala slash Sabo, or your searchers so that you can find Koala and Sabo. You want to use Koala and Sabo to worsen the effects of both Yamato and Gadatsu. And then you get them to one with your leader ideally while establishing your board, and then you don't go for lethal until you have a big enough board to combat their huge hand that they get and their multiple triggers that can potentially save them, like beige, you're the one who should disappear. I've seen some running Amaru again. Uh, Off the top of my head, I can't think of any more that would just
Dude,
outright save them
I
from
think those are
lethal.
it. There are others that are super annoying, like
Yeah.
Frankie, but I think those are the ones that like save them. Oh, 5 cost Nami. Egghead one.
Oh yeah, yeah. 5 cost Egghead, 5 cost Nami.
Oh,
So
Nami.
those can just oh my god, there's 5 of them.
Yeah, there's so
So those
many.
cards can just this is why you have to build your board wide enough to not just outright lose the game, because you can. You can just outright lose the game against Enel because he triggers, or you go for lethal turn too early, and now too many of your characters are sideways, and they take care of them, and there's no way that you can go for lethal on the next turn. Um, I personally like going wide, keeping all my Don up, and waiting to see if they trigger anything. If they do stop me from attacking with something, I say play dragon to supplement that attack, so I can still have a tall body and give my leader some Don. But if they don't have the trigger, I can just use that Don to allocate to whatever is still available to attack.
Yeah.
Rushers are going to be your friend in terms of like holding one back in your hand for lethal, whether that be Inazuma or Dragon, just because that's how you avoid the triggers hitting. Like Onami can't hit it if it's not on the board, and Beige can't hit it if it's not on the board, and Nami can't hit it if it's not on the board. So it limits the impact that those triggers can have on the game, or the like the ability to prevent you from winning the game.
Yeah.
It's a matchup that they can just trigger their way to victory, though. You can swing, and they have all big bodies in life, and you don't have any trigger issues. Or you can swing, and every hit is Onami and Nami, and you can never establish a board.
Exactly. It's a really rough matchup when they hit their stuff, but when they don't, it's a walk in the park. Like it's actually
Yeah.
crazy. Like when you swing them down like early to like two, uh, and they don't hit like anything whatsoever, you're just like, okay, well this was nice, and then like you just go, oh wait, I have 5 characters on board now. I'm just gonna kill you next turn, because the pressure, because they take you do your early 5k swings, right? Like just like BY Luffy, they're not gonna counter out of any swings early, and then you just go wide and you kill them in a single turn. Um, and of course, like Adam said, like with yellow, they're gonna trigger, but as long as you have the swings to stabilize that, it's your game to win. And dropping like one koala and one sabo, or like double koala, as long as they don't drop an 8 cost katakuri, that's gonna bring basically all of your 4 costs out of Yamato range, uh, which is 4 costs are your power cards, and if Yamato can't hit those, then Yamato doesn't get much value, and the game's over from there.
Yeah, and you can oftentimes get in a position to like be pressuring them to lethal before they even have the chance to play Yamato.
Mhm.
Um, because they're a 4 life leader, they can be very squishy.
Yeah,
I guess they're
exactly.
always a 5 life
They're
leader.
technically a 5 life leader always, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
we don't necessarily care that much about 5 life leaders anymore. I mean, we've seen in 8.5 and '09 that we are able to keep up with 5 life leaders at this point. Um,
yeah. One of the few 2 color decks I can.
exactly. Um, so the life necessarily don't matter like that. It's just which way you go about taking their life. That's important with this matchup.
Hmm. I would say if they ever make the mistake of swinging at you, you can't counter out. They don't have anything to punish your hand. And I know a lot of Enels that just don't have a play on 3 Don, so they Don up and swing lead,
Yeah.
which
If they do that
I
once,
mean,
it's
like
over.
we're
Like
not countering out of.
literally once, it's
Yeah,
over.
yeah.
Uh, yeah, because
So
that one card goes to our hand, and we just now had to play like one koala to be out of Yamato range, and we're just so golden if they swing. Uh, they're never gonna get like a sneaky lethal on you because the characters they play are weak as shit, until they get to their late game. And they don't play rushers, right? They play ace, but like they're not gonna get to 10 down to play ace, so they're never gonna get like a sneaky
and
lethal on you.
if they're playing Russia now, like it just allows you to uniquely pressure their hand in life in a way that is great. We
Yeah.
don't care that he's a 7K body, but we can force them to trash life by attacking into it. And I've won games by just ignoring the 7 cost Enel, and I've also won games by attacking it. So
Yeah.
it's just situational, obviously.
Yeah. No, definitely an interesting like way you can go about it with the 7 cost Enel, but nobody fucking plays that card.
The only reason I bring it up is because I literally just played against it when I was on Joyboy's
Yeah,
stream.
I saw that game. You
He,
reacted the same way fucking I did. I was like, what the fuck are you? Who plays
yeah,
this?
and he left it standing. It was crazy. Anyway, we have the most important matchup next, and it will be our last matchup, and that is Nami. And against Nami, you can just win. You just win this one. It's so easy. Go, go wide, and use your leader ability. And if they swing, take the hit. They probably won't swing. The only thing you have to watch out for, and you don't even have to watch out that hard, is Rush Usopp.
And that's literally not a problem as long as you have a Koala or Karasu blocker in play.
Yeah,
It's
non
literally
issue.
only if you go completely unguarded. They've managed to mill way more than they're like supposed to because they had God draws and you didn't.
And God triggers.
Yeah, God triggered everything. You know, if all the stars align, then maybe, maybe there's a chance.
Then maybe,
You
yeah.
know.
If yeah, when Mercury was in retrograde, Nami had a chance.
Yeah, and that was
Uh,
240 years ago. So you know,
Unreal.
and there's nothing to say about this
uh,
matchup, dude. I don't know, like.
it literally is free. This we've gone over a couple matchups that are um like very very high percentage win rates, like BY Luffy, RP Luffy. This is the easiest of all of them.
This is free.
Yeah, like you have to I don't know, I would say like starting your opening hand being 2 dragon, 3/7 cost Sabo, then you'd probably have an issue.
Yeah, and I guess we should probably mention. I don't know how much this impacts the game because I actually have never played against Nami with Belo Betty, not knowing the Nami matchup. But you know, swings 5 and 9s, 5 and 9s, kids. Uh, like
Yeah, you
yeah,
either make them inefficiently counter out or make them use multiple things.
exactly. So because yeah, they have Gavel. So if you're gonna swing 7, that's not gonna be very efficient for you.
They
Five
want
five
you to
and
swing
5 and 9s are
7.
the ways. So yeah,
They
make
want
make sure you do that when you're swinging. Make sure you swing the right numbers. Otherwise, it could, I guess, swing the matchup. But no,
It won't.
it won't.
It won't. Like we're saying do it optimally or don't,
You
whatever.
know,
You'll win.
you can play optimally against other decks. Like spare your energy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, your brain power is better spent for the Dofi
Yup.
matchup.
Don't sit
If you're
there.
playing yeah,
Sorry,
if
don't
you're
sit
running against
there just like fucking overthinking like, oh, they might have a love mellow in their hand. Don't do that. Don't worry about it. You know, save that for the Lucci matchup or you know anything else, Dofi matchup.
yeah, I was literally gonna say when you're fighting a Nami, save your use your brain power in that matchup to think about play lines against Dofi. Like
Yo, consider your last game.
it's
Go
like
over what went wrong in that
it's
game.
all you and pilot your way to victory.
Yep, exactly.
Uh, all right. So those are the leaders. This is the end of part 2. If you somehow stumbled onto this before part 1, please go check out Hashtag EMB's channel. Matt, you've been an absolute pleasure. You were the inspiration for me to run Betty, and I can't believe that I got to not only collab with you, but you were the first collab on my channel. So I truly do appreciate you being here. Thanks so much.
It's my honor. I know you're gonna go far, dude. You've shown that you are a player to be reckoned, reckoned for, reckoned with, reckoned whatever. Not my main
Yeah, reckoned
language.
with.
Reckoned with. There we go.
Hey,
So
you crushed it,
it's
dude.
my honor to be the first guy on here for sure.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. I hope everyone has a good life week. I don't know. How do you sign these off?
Don't forget to like and subscribe, dude. Oh, what did you say? Like
Like
the
like
video.
like D video. Like D video. Yeah, like D video. Oh, I
Yeah.
love it. I love there was an awkward goodbye at the end of the first one, and now this one's just as awkward. I
Dude,
feel like we're on
we're
brand.
exact. I was just gonna fuck, dude. You're taking the words right out of my mouth, man.
All
Yeah.
right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.